battery-powered screwdrivers have come a long way since the 1990s, and these days you can get some pretty good, decently powerful, useful tools in a small form factor. For size comparison, here's your typical Klein 11-in-1. Not much difference between the electric screwdrivers and the hand cranked one. This one, of course, is obviously a lot more chunkier, but there's a reason for that. So this scale is the one that I bought first. It has this interesting twist mechanism. It takes a while to get used to, but it works, like, because you twist it in the same direction as you hand crank it. Of course, a good, decent lighting from both sides. It's got a locking collar, so put it in and it's not coming out. So I find that useful, and it's got a useful voltage detector feature. So here's a powered extension cord. You hold down this button, so it makes a beeping sound, and also glows. The LED here glows red when it detects high voltage in the wire. So this actually is useful for doing small electrical work, like changing out lights, fixtures, or switches, or electrical outlets. It's rated for 230 RPM, and it comes with a 1.3 amp hour lithium-ion battery. I also decided to try this one, the Denali by Amazon. It's a pretty popular choice these days. It's a more powerful screwdriver. It has the buttons right here. Also 2 lights on the sides, but they're a lot weaker. They're not as bright as this. The collar is non-locking, it's just magnetic. And it has adjustable electronic torque. So this is also a useful, decent screwdriver, and it's pretty powerful for its size. And then I decided to try this one. This one has just one LED on the bottom. It's a right angle screwdriver. Figured it'd be useful to get into some spots. This one has a 1.5 amp hour battery, and also has a non-locking bit retention. But the magnet on this one is noticeably stronger than the magnet on the Denali. And it has just a single speed, regular trigger. You switch directions using this lever here. So in terms of your basic screwdriver task, let's say you want to pre-drill something with the 1/8 of an inch drill bit, this one is going to be a little bit slower. These two are about the same. In terms of like RPM, this one is rated for 300 RPM. So under lighter loads, it's going to be the fastest one out of all these. This one is rated for 230. This one is rated at 220. But this one has the most torque out of all these screwdrivers. So when the load gets heavier, this one is going to perform the best. So for typical screwdriver tests, let's say you're driving a screw like this into a pre-drill hole, all of these screwdrivers can handle the job without a problem. And then if you're desperate, you can try something like a 1/4 inch drill bit. These two will do it. This one will do it the fastest, followed by this one. And then this, yeah, it might take you like 2 minutes, and it will do it like once, drilling 1/4 inch hole through a 2x4. But I would not recommend using any of these screwdrivers for drilling a hole this size. So the fact that this one is the least powerful out of all these screwdrivers, I'm not going to hold it against it, because for the kind of jobs that I would typically use electric screwdriver for, this one has enough power. And in fact, it has more useful features like a locking collar and a voltage sensor. Now, what about driving smaller screws like this, tiny screw? Well, this one is not overpowered, so you can drive it and you get a good feel of how tight you're turning it. With this one, you really need to use the electronic clutch, because if you keep it on maximum settings, you will strip this out for sure. Now, between the levels 1 and 2, I don't really see much difference in my testing, so it's not driving the screw all the way on setting 1 and 2. And then on setting 3, the maximum, it will strip out the threads if you let it go, as long as you hold the button. And then there's this. So I originally bought this thinking it'll be nice as a replacement for, like a drill, if you're not drilling holes but just driving fasteners. And it has good amount of power, but the problem is it has so much power, it needs a way to control it. Right now it's just a single speed trigger. There's no variable speed trigger, it's just on and off. In terms of loosening screws, this will be the best out of all these. But in terms of driving screws, it actually requires the most, paying attention to what you're doing, because it's got the most torque and it has no way to control the torque other than the user stopping and letting go of the trigger in time. Also, these both have a locking clutch, so you can drive the screw by hand if, for example, the screwdriver runs out of power. This one also, you can drive it by hand. This one does not have a locking clutch mechanism, so it runs out of power and you try to drive it by hand, it's just going to spin the motor. There's no locking mechanism when the screwdriver is not working. Another thing is both of these scale screwdrivers have micro USB charging ports, and they're not covered. They're just exposed. Whereas the Denali has a covered port and it's USB-C. So I like that. Which one I like best? Well, I actually like this one the best, because for the type of jobs that I would typically use an electric screwdriver, it has the most features, and there's no, or a lot less of a risk to stripping out the screw that you're turning. And most of the time, you're going to be turning machine screws that already have pre-cut threads. Like, I'm not going to be using this to drive screws into wood. This one, if you want something more powerful, this also works. I don't really like the button placement. Like, I wish it was further down. But on the flip side, you can hold it like this and, screw something this way. Whereas with this screwdriver, you're pretty much forced to turn your hand whichever way the screwdriver is facing. And with the scale, I thought I would like this the most, and it has the most power. But as it turns out, having a lot of power is not always a good thing if there's no way to control that power. So what it really needs is a variable speed trigger. That would make the screwdriver the most useful replacement, like if you gotta drive some small screws instead of lugging a drill around. But as it is right now, it's just not as useful as I thought it would be. So with electric screwdrivers, more power is not always a good thing. Anytime when you need the extra power that this offers, you'd be better off using a compact drill, which, by the way, also costs about 20 bucks, about as much as any one of these screwdrivers. And it has not only a variable clutch, but also has variable speed trigger. That's something that none of these screwdrivers have. So that's all for now. Peace out.